Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 3 gave us a deeper look into the character of John Walker, aka the new Star-Spangled Man. He starts the episode on the trail of Carly Morgenthau, but when his status as the new Captain America fails to impress a Flag Smasher sympathizer,
do you know who I am?
Walker rage quits the investigation and opts to wait for Sam and Bucky to do his job for him.
So we bet on someone who's got a better hand.
And that's literally the last we see of him this episode. Now, I think it's worth reflecting here on the contrast between him and old school Captain America, Steve Rogers. Not only has Steve proved his tenacity time and time again,
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
but his unassuming way and sincere humility could not be more different or less obnoxious than Walker's self-importance,
Kind of the government.
and outburst of narcissistic rage.
Do you know who I am?
Remember how Steve Rogers described himself when Red Skull asked,
What made to you so special? Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
I mean, how did this John Walker guy get to be the new Captain America anyway?
John Walker, first person in American history to receive 3 Medals of Honor, ran RS-1 missions in counterterrorism and hostage rescue. The government did a study of your body at MIT, and you tested off the charts in every measurable category: speed, endurance, intelligence.
Look, here's the thing. I'm not Tony Stark. I'm not Dr. Banner. Okay, I don't have the flashiest gadgets. I don't have super strength. But what I do have is guts.
Oh yeah, pretty easy to see why the Pentagon, President, and Washington PR machine would pick this guy, right? He is a thrice-honored badass soldier who is so badass that MIT scientists had to study his badassery. One might even call him the perfect soldier. It's a no-brainer. Or is it? I feel like we're forgetting something.
This is why you were chosen. Because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power. But a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
Thanks. I think.
Whatever happens tomorrow, you must promise me one thing. That you will stay who you are.
Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
Somehow I doubt that the politicians in Washington, D.C. made Dr. Erskine's criteria a priority in choosing the next Captain America. And forgive me if I suspect that Walker is just this sort of man to lose respect for power. Now, no one was ever going to be able to fill Steve's shoes, and not everyone needs to be Steve. The way things are going so far, though, Walker makes me want to tear that shield away from him, grab him by the harness, and say,
You're unworthy!
But what do you think? Am I being too harsh on Johnny Boy? Will he turn out to be less of an a-hole than these comparisons to Steve make him out to be? Or do you feel the urge to punch him in that smug little face just as much as I do? Let us know in the comments. And Bob, same question to you. Am I being too harsh here, or are these signs from Walker truly troubling?
I think you're being kind, to be honest. Marvel seems to be intentionally leading us towards the conclusion that while physically he may be a good soldier, mentally he's not the guy. He's just not that guy. When you go to do an interrogation and the suspect's like, yeah, I know who you are, and I just don't care. And it just makes you rage quit. Just, some dude on the street is like, I don't care about you.
That's what he did.
And you go have a temper tantrum about it. You're not the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just that simple.
And he literally is like, okay, well, I guess we'll just wait for Sam and Bucky to do this for us.
Yeah, and then later in the episode, they kind of figure out, they can't prove it, but they kind of figure out it's Sam and Bucky who get Zemo out of jail. And they're like, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go off book. He basically says we're going off book, and if we get the job done, who's going to care how he did it?
Yeah, and that's not to say that Steve never went off book, but it feels different to me, in a way, because it just feels different. Because Steve was motivated by, I feel, very different factors, and he was also never one to like have like a narcissistic rage explosion at someone. So I just feel like Steve was more tenacious. I mean, can you imagine if Walker was the guy in the position, after the blip happened, or, the snapping, during the blip, and Ant-Man shows up and he's like, I have this wild and crazy idea to turn back time and blah, blah, blah. Is Walker really the guy who's going to like go the extra mile to like make sure that all happens? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's the guy. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any other way to look at it.
Do you think let me ask you this question. What do you think are the chances that later on Walker surprises us in the sense that, or at least surprises me, and probably you too, in the sense that he shows that he's not that bad of a guy after all? Maybe he's got, a little bit of arrogance or whatever, but ultimately, when the rubber hits the road, he's going to do the right thing? Or do you think it's going to be more of, if it turns out he ends up getting some kind of enhancement that he abuses it, or just in any sort of way, like Dr. Erskine was kind of, talking about, loses respect for the power he has and doesn't operate with any compassion. What are the chances of him going either of those two ways to you?
10% chance he surprises us and turns out to be a decent human being underneath it all. That's about how much faith I have in it.
Okay. You think he's not a decent human being whatsoever? Or do you think that
he
he's just
is more focused on his career? You mentioned how Steve would break the rules. Steve broke the rules for the greater good. This guy's breaking the rules for his own career. And that's the main difference.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you think 10% chance?
At best. I'm being generous at 10%.
Okay. I'm going to say there's like a 20 to 25% chance. I think it's pretty low, but I think that it's like something that Marvel would do, because what I don't think that they're going to do is make it like a really black and white, like this guy's evil. It's going to be more shades of gray. It's going to be, maybe he has good intentions or something like that, but ultimately he was corrupted by power type of a thing.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be blatantly evil. I don't think he's going to turn into the next, Red Skull or anything. But he's definitely not the guy that you want having that kind of power and responsibility.
He's not the guy. I mean, when he said,
Do you know who I am?
He lost it in that moment. He lost it, dude. That is not a man who is in full control of himself, right? And whatever you can say about Steve, he never had, like an enraged outburst. Like he maybe, let himself go in a fight and punched somebody really hard a few times or something like that. But I can't remember a moment when Steve let his rage and I don't know, get the better of him and turn into, some type of outburst like that. Is there any moment even resembling that in any of the MCU?
The closest I remember is when Steve and Tony start to argue about using the Mind Stone and creating what ultimately becomes Vision.
Okay, and so you're talking about an Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm thinking of is when they were fighting at Hawkeye's house out and they're splitting wood and Tony sort of is poking him and is like, I don't trust anybody that doesn't have a dark side or whatever. And Cap just rips the log apart with his bare hands. And he's like, maybe you haven't seen it yet. That's the closest thing I can remember. I'm not, are you talking about when they're in Tony's lab and they're arguing about it?
Yeah.
Like right before Thor comes back and he's like, no, Tony was right. And everybody's like, oh, didn't see that coming. And he nukes the pod that Vision is like being birthed from and like brings it out.
Yeah, you see the little meter like struggling, like almost enough power, not quite enough power, almost enough power, and then he gives it the Thor's app, and it's like 100%. Let's do it.
So you're talking about the argument like right before then, basically.
Like
okay.
you just kind of think, is Steve gonna put Tony through that wall right there?
I think they were starting to have a heated argument, but it didn't rise to the level of like, respect my authority because I'm Captain America,
Well, no, he even if he lost his temper, he wouldn't have that much narcissism in him. But let's be honest. If you're going to lose your temper at somebody, it's going to be Tony Stark, because he can be a lot of work. I mean, he's one of my favorite MCU characters. Don't get me wrong. I love Tony, but he's a lot of work.
He's a lot of work. Yeah. He's almost like constantly like pushing your buttons on purpose to make you have an outburst so that he can get the upper hand more easily. Like, not that it's hard for him to get the upper hand in a conversation with almost any given person.
Yeah, but you don't do that to somebody with 5 times your strength.
Well, unless you're Tony Stark.
Don't poke the bear.
Right. So, okay, I mean, I think we're agreed on this, but like, folks, if you're watching this video on YouTube or you're listening to this on your podcast device, like, let us know what you think. Do you disagree with us about John Walker? I mean, I know he's got more of a history in the comics, and he's maybe more of a dimensional character there than what we've seen so far here. I don't know. But let us know what you think. So I think it's time to move on to our next topic.